My name is Lady Myriana, warrior of RoD. And as the horns of Alliance Conquest echoed across the battlefield, I realized fate had a cruel sense of humor. Our very first match was against HD. Once we had fought beside them. Now we would stand as enemies. RoD marched beneath the banners of the Lannisters, while HD entered the battlefield fighting for the Targaryens. And as I looked across the battlefield, I could not help but wonder, would HD finally stand and fight? Or would they disappear once again, just like they did during the last season of Siege of Winterfell? I did not know what waited for us on this battlefield, but one thing was certain. I was ready for whatever stood in front of me, because when former allies become enemies, the battlefield becomes far more dangerous than anyone expects. As I looked across the battlefield, I saw the objectives waiting ahead of us. The Temple of the Mother, the Temple of the Warrior, the outposts scattered across the land. And above them all, Casterly Rock, the ultimate prize of Alliance Conquest. But for me, this battle had already become personal, because beyond those castles stood HD, former allies, and that was what made this battlefield so dangerous. They knew how we fought. They knew our habits, our strengths, and our weaknesses. I respected HD, but respect means very little once the battle begins, as there can be only one. The battle began better than I could have hoped. RoD won 3 out of the 4 opening races, and as our banners started rising across the battlefield, I felt confident. But Alliance Conquest is never won in the opening minutes. I knew the real danger was still coming. The swaps. And HD was known for deadly counter-swaps. So even while RoD celebrated the strong start, I stayed focused. Because somewhere on this battlefield, HD was preparing their response. RoD's first swap went well. But then we lost the Temple of the Warrior. And shortly after, the Temple of the Mother fell as well. The moment I saw those banners disappear, my heart sank. This was exactly what I had been afraid of. HD had survived the opening pressure, and now they were starting to take control of the battlefield. To correct this, it was time for what I knew RoD did best. Brute strength. First, we rallied the Temple of the Mother, and we took it back. At the same time, some of RoD's strongest fighters pushed into the Temple of the Warrior and secured it as well. And they captured both just in time for the ports to open. The moment I saw that happen, I knew we were one step closer to regaining control of the battlefield. If HD wanted a fight, then we would give them one. Both RoD and HD managed to secure one port. But just as I feared, HD counter-swapped us once again. The battlefield was slipping back into balance, and in Alliance Conquest, balance is dangerous, because it means one mistake can decide everything. I realized victory was still far from secured. No matter how hard we fought, HD kept finding ways to answer us. And that was when my focus shifted toward the ultimate objective, Casterly Rock. If we wanted to prove who truly controlled this battlefield, then we needed the rock. But I also knew HD was far from finished. And somehow, they always found ways to make the battle difficult. The battle for Casterly Rock had finally begun, and every alliance on the battlefield understood the same thing. Whoever controlled the rock controlled the match. The pressure on RoD had been building since the very beginning. Every swap, every counter, every lost objective. It had all led to this moment. And then, Candy moved. One of RoD's strongest fighters charged toward Casterly Rock and managed to win the race. The moment I saw our banners rise above the castle, I knew everything had changed. This was the break we had been fighting for. HD tried to answer. They fought desperately to stop us, but the battlefield was slipping away from them, and for the first time since the match began, I could finally feel victory within reach. RoD's struggles had not been for nothing. Every difficult moment, every lost swap, every battle across the temples and ports had led us here, to Casterly Rock, to victory. As the fighting around Casterly Rock finally began to slow, I looked across the battlefield one last time. The banners of RoD still flew above the castle walls, and in that moment, I finally allowed myself to breathe. This battle had not been easy. HD had pushed us at every stage of the match. They countered our swaps. They fought for every objective, and for a long time, victory felt uncertain. But in the end, RoD endured. We adapted. We fought harder. And when the moment came to decide the battle, we took Casterly Rock. As I stood beneath the Lannister banners, I realized something important. This victory was not only about defeating HD, it was about proving that RoD could overcome pressure when it mattered most. Former allies, now rivals. And this battlefield had finally shown which side stood stronger today. But deep down, I knew this would not be the last time our paths crossed. Because wars between former allies rarely end after a single battle.